Chitoeta Nakita of the Russian Nightmare, and you are listening to Wrestling for the Faith with Casey Cage. Stay tuned or I come after you. Chitoeta.
Hello everyone, welcome to Wrestling for the Faith. I'm your host Casey Cage, and I thank you for joining us today. I've got a very special guest on with me today, but before I get to him, I want to read from 1 Corinthians chapter 6. This is verses 9 through 11. It says, "Do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. Neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor homosexuals, nor sodomites, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners will inherit the kingdom of God. And such were some of you. But you were washed, but you were sanctified, but you were justified in the name of the Lord Jesus and by the Spirit of our God." And that, even though these may seem like some harsh verses, that verse 11 is one of my favorite verses in Scripture. And it just lets us know the grace of God and what Jesus did for us to take away all of our sin. If we will truly accept Him, He will come in, He will clean us up, He will completely transform our lives. All of these things that it talks about sins and that they will not inherit the kingdom of God, the greedy, the fornicators, the adulterers, and so on and so on. But verse 11 says, "And such were some of you." Such were some of you. I promise you, the grace of God can change any person and wash away any sin, no matter what. And this man that I've got with me today, he knows better than most anybody that he knows who I used to be and who I am now. And he knows that I am a completely different critter. So without further ado, I want to introduce my guest today, one of the very few people who I have escaped the wrestling business with and am able to call a friend, and one of the men who I have the most respect for as a man and as a professional wrestler, and I'm not afraid to say it, the best wrestler that I had ever been in the ring with. My greatest rival over the last 18 years, Johnny Rokk. How you doing, brother?
Man, I don't know that I deserved all that. I mean, good grief. Man, I'm doing great. Glad to be here with you, man. Honestly, it's been a long time, too long.
Definitely has.
I just, every time we get together, it just seems like nothing's ever changed.
Yeah.
We just pick up where we left off, but things have changed. You've changed. And, just like what you were saying, man, it's for the better, and I can't tell you how proud I am of you to have taken this walk of faith and just ran with it.
Well, thank you. That's all glory goes to God, because that's who I used to be. I never had the desire to change. I didn't have the desire to change until Jesus came into my life. Jesus changed me. I didn't go to rehab. I didn't set out on some 12-step program or set out on some journey trying to better myself. I was just changed by the grace of God, and that's the only thing. And He's done it for so many others throughout history.
Yeah, you can definitely tell when He's tugging at your heart, as He's done for me numerous times. You really feel different when you feel that tug. It's just kind of like you don't question the decisions that you're making. It just that they're right.
Mm-hmm.
That what you're about to do is the right thing to do. as I've often found, and I told my daughter this not too long ago, we were having a conversation, and oftentimes I've found that if you have to think too long about your choice, you're probably headed for the wrong one.
Mm-hmm.
And if it feels like a bad decision, then most likely it is.
Yeah.
Like what you're saying, it's automatic. You know, when you feel the Lord tug at you, the decision is not hard.
Right.
You just go.
Mm-hmm.
And I've struggled with that a lot, but he works on you all the time, I believe.
Definitely.
And regardless of where we're at, who we are, and what we're doing at the time, when it happens, it's going to happen, and you'll feel it.
Well,
and you'll know it.
That's like me and Woody was talking about last week. The Lord, none of us are perfect, but it's never an excuse not to strive for that perfection.
Right.
And all of us are a work in progress. The Lord He is cleaning us up. Once you give your life to Him, He is cleaning you up from the inside out and growing you day by day. There's none of us who know it all. There's none of us who understand everything. There's none of us who are perfect, but He is perfecting us by the power of the Holy Spirit living inside of us. He's perfecting us day by day. That's what sanctification is, and that's what the walk with Jesus is all about. It's Him showing us who we truly are in Christ, and making us understand His love and His grace and His mercy. It's not anything that we do. It's not, oh, look how much I read. Look how much I go to church. Look how much I help the poor. Look how much I do this or that. Those things, some of them can be good, but a lot of people get religious and get hung up on those things and try to put themselves above others. But that's not what it's all about. It's not about what I have done. It's about what He did. And what He did on the cross over 2,000 years ago paid for so much that we will not even completely understand everything that it paid for until we are face to face with Him. So I'm just going to kind of begin a journey here. I know that I definitely want to talk about some of the matches that we've had. But I want to begin.
How much time?
We might have to do a part 2 somewhere down the road.
I got to go to work in the morning. I can't spend the night.
Just start off. How'd you get started in the wrestling business, and when was that?
God, if you want to, my actual start in the wrestling business, my very first match was May 18th, 2002. But prior to that, I was brought up with it. My mom, when I was just 2 weeks old, she had me sitting in my infant seat beside her watching Georgia Championship Wrestling. And even though I don't remember, I don't know if anybody remembers what was going on in their life at 2 weeks old. But she's told me that. And, man, I've got to show you these sometimes. I've got Rubbermaid totes in my attic at home full of albums from where my mom, in her 20s, went to shows and got to meet several. I mean, she got, close with some of these people. So that's really where it started. My mom just kind of, here it is.
Yeah.
This is what I enjoy watching. This is what I enjoy following.
And it was ingrained in you from the beginning.
Oh man, it was like somebody just took an injection and just put it right in my veins, and it's never left.
Yeah.
So I've got pictures of me with some of the older wrestlers, Tim Horner, Tommy Rich. I remember my mom told me a story one time that Ivan Koloff was holding me one time because Buzz Sawyer and Tommy Rich was in a real bad feud. My mom was out there, and as Buzz Sawyer come out, he went into a frenzy because she had a Tommy Rich shirt on. You see, back then they lived and breathed it. You know, no matter if he was in the building or outside the building, or if he was at the restaurant 3 hours away, you were Buzz Sawyer.
Yeah.
And I got real upset. Of course, I don't remember none of this. I was just a baby, but somehow or another, Ivan Koloff got a hold of me, and my mom just told me a story of when Buzz Sawyer was threatening to rip her shirt off and burn it, and what have you. Ivan Koloff sitting there holding me, saying, "It's okay, buddy. You know, it'll be all right." And then as they were leaving, he told Mom, "This is coming from her." She said, "Ivan Koloff, so just anytime you're around, you just let him come see your Uncle Ivan." And it'd be cool to remember that, but of course I don't. I just have stories of what my mom told me. But
Ivan was a good guy. He was one that I got to talking to, and I don't know if you remember or not, but when we were doing the GWM shows, I had him planned to come in, and he was going to share his testimony and do autographs at one of those shows, and then we ended up having to reschedule the date, and then he passed away, and so we never got that opportunity. But just the conversations that I had with him, I really wish we could have made that happen, because he was a great guy.
Yeah. Just all my life, it's been wrestling, and I remember, as a kid, I remember when Sting and Luger faced off at Super Brawl. I believe is what it was. And, we had cable back at the time. But at that point, if you didn't order the pay-per-view, you could still turn to the channel and listen to it, but you couldn't see it. And I remember kneeling down there beside the TV as a kid and listening to Sting win the championship. I think it might have been a crossbody or something like that off the top.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see it, but I couldn't have been more thrilled, because it's been no secret who my hero is.
Oh, yeah.
And that was carried over into my wrestling persona. But if you fast forward all the way to when I actually started getting in a ring, mutual friend of ours, Skull, we were hanging around, and I just told him, like, "Man, how did I get in this?" And he was like, "Well, you get trained." I was like, "Well, obviously, yeah. I mean, can you show me how to do this thing?" And my mom's manager at her job, Hoyt, which was Iceman down at TWA, he had keys to the building. Him and Doug Watkins were, closer than brothers. And that just happened to be where Skull was wrestling. And so we started going down, and I started training with Skull. And he got me in there and taught me how to bump and run the ropes and throw punches and stomps and all that good stuff. And within 2 weeks, I was running spots. And he was like, "Man, you've got it." He says, "You're gonna be good, dude." And so Skull really got me in the ring and got me headed in the right direction. Taught me how to bump and how to do things safely. And I give him credit that over the years I always say that Iceman trained me. I don't think I've given Skull enough credit. That's on me. I don't think I've given him enough credit, because if you can't bump, you can't.
Yeah.
If you can't bump, you can't work.
Right.
And I know that's saying that, it's like you take a look at some things that happen in the business, and some people would argue if you can't bump, you can't work, because there's people that can't bump and they've been wrestling 30 years.
Yeah, that's
not to pick on anybody, but something happened or another. Skull, he ended up going one way, and I stayed at TWA. As life has it, he went and done his thing, and we kind of lost contact for a long time. And so Hoyt, Iceman, started working with me. And then that's when they say, I got took to the learning tree. And he got me in there. And, buddy, that's what he taught me. You can't pick up on TV. You can't pick up playing video games. He got me in there and roughed me up. He showed me what it was like to be in there with somebody who wasn't going to pull their punches as much as some, who wasn't going to pull their kicks, their stomps, their forearms. I don't think he ever pulled a forearm or a clothesline.
He made you earn it.
Yeah. He said, you want to be in this, I'm gonna make you want to be in this.
Yeah.
And I think Cody Gunn sat in on one of my training sessions one time, gave me no praise at all. That's just how Cody was. I mean, he's old school guy.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he said, boy, if you ain't sore in places that you've never been before, you didn't do this right. And I will tell you, after being in there with Cody Gunn in one training session and Hoyt, I was sore in places I didn't know I had places. But they took it to me.
That's the thing that I think, going back to the conversation I had with Woody on last week's episode, I don't think the guys should be getting 10 chair shots over the head and getting beat up in training. But,
no.
I mean, I think that's missing. I think the door is too easily open to any random guy off the street, to come in, and they, instead of making them earn it, instead of making sure that they have the passion and the heart for it, guys just want to make some money, so they'll tell guys, yeah, hey, pay me this and I'll train you, and they teach a guy how to bump, and then they put them on shows.
Yeah, there's far too many people who haven't had to earn it. Another thing that did not happen in training with me is, if I messed something up, if I didn't take a bump properly, I didn't get chopped. They didn't put me in a corner and beat my chest in with chops. No, they stopped and they showed me, no, son, this is how you do this.
Right.
This is, this is how you want to perform this. This is how you want to take this bump for safety for not only you, but your brother that's in the ring with you. We're not looked at as just another guy. It's supposed to be a brotherhood. We're supposed to take care of each other while simulating violence. So they didn't sit in there, and when I say they beat the crap out of me, they didn't take advantage of a young kid who wanted to wrestle. They taught me the right way. They said, doing fallen trees. If I done something wrong, they stopped. Okay, no, Johnny. If you do this, it'll help you. I see these guys and they brag about how many chops they give these green guys. It's like, what are you bragging about, dude? Right. You're taking advantage of a guy who's wanting to come in and learn this business, and not only are you doing wrong by them, but you're doing wrong by the people that's coming in behind this kid, because he's going to think that this is the way that this is done.
Right.
And in my eyes, it's not. I don't see the point in to me, that's like, if your dog takes crap in the floor, you go rub its nose in it, It irritates me when I hear stuff about that. But
I don't believe people should be beaten, but like the old way of Hindu squats and running the ropes and making them puke, because back in the day, even before our time, it was so protected.
Yeah.
And so if you were going to allow anybody to come into the sport, you had to make sure that they had the heart for it, and that they were willing to be a professional wrestler, and not just somebody who wants to come in here and play wrestler.
There's a big difference in somebody that wants to just be in front of a crowd to say, hey, I'm a wrestler, versus someone who lives and breathes this business and loves it. You can tell the people who really want to do well, and some of these people who go home and throw their bag in a closet and don't wash their gear.
Yeah.
A wrestler takes pride in what he does.
Right.
And that's everything from preparation for a show all the way to analyzing what you could have done better on the drive home from a show.
Exactly.
You're never satisfied. You always, think, well, dang, I could have done this better. And that was my thing, going into this. And that's why I recorded my training sessions. When going back to my first start, I would set a camera up and record my training sessions so I could take these things home and think, did this look good or did this look bad? Am I learning or am I not learning? Am I progressing or regressing?
Mm-hmm. What
am I doing? And I don't think enough people do that. No. I think you should document this, and not for the public eye, but for your own personal use. Watch yourself, study yourself, even in training. Watch what happens, because the things that I learned, the things that I picked up on by watching my film from training, I wasn't just watching myself, I was watching the guy that was training me too.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I wasn't doing it right, he was showing me how to do it right. So then I have a visual on, at home. I can sit and study this as long as I want to. I've got a visual. This is what I see. I could see what I'd done, and then I could watch him show me what I could do to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a key role in the fact that I turned out the way that I did, is because I studied myself. I studied my trainer. I went to the shows and I paid to get in, and I watched the guys on the card. I rarely went to a show. After I started training, I don't think I ever went to a show as a fan. Even when I went to WWE house shows, WCW house shows, stuff like that, I studied it.
Yeah.
I wanted to see if I could pick out where maybe they had messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Where in a move placement, should I do a backdrop here, or should I wait and give him the backdrop midway through for a hope spot or something? Yeah. Should I do this here or there? And
it's what you call being a student of the game.
Exactly. Whenever I got started and I started filming my training sessions and really started to try and wrap my mind around the business, I don't think I started with training. I think that's when I started.
Yeah.
I started taking bumps with Skull, but I really started once I wrapped my mind around what can I do to constantly improve.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on down, I think I only trained 6 months. Maybe maybe, but they were Doug Watkins and the rest of them. They were all like, "Kid, you're ready. Yeah. You've got it. The only way you're going to do this is if you get in there and learn from these guys." And I'm like, "No, I need to go a little longer. Don't rush your training. This is something that you don't gamble with. You don't play with yourself, as far as your health wise, and you don't gamble with somebody else's health either.
Yeah.
You be meticulous about that. Take your time. Make sure you know what you're doing before you get in there and have your first match. And that's what I did. They said, "Hey kid, you're ready. And this was like after a month. Get in there, dude. The only way you're going to learn anything is if you get in there and mix it up with these guys." And I'm like, I understand that, but I don't feel comfortable with where I'm at.
Right.
And then I ended up, my first match was against Ron Davis. I can't tell you the date. I wore black jeans, tennis shoes, and a white T-shirt with a black and blue line across the chest. I was not prepared, and that taught me bad habits right off, But I remember working Ron, and Ron was great to work with. He said, "Kid, we'll be all right." I was so nervous. I didn't even have music picked out. I can't even remember really what song I come out to, and because I wasn't even on the card that night. We had a guy cancel, I believe, and I don't remember ever planning this out or nothing. I don't remember going over anything in the locker room with Ron. I remember he tried to get me to Lacey's boots, and I had the advantage of people smartening me up to stuff like that. That's the one thing that was kind of out of the ordinary is Hoyt and Doug and them. They made me smart to stuff like that. You know,
these guys are going to take advantage of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I told him no. He asked me to lace his boots, and you lace your own boots. And I gained respect from him for that too.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't going to come in that locker room and get bullied.
Right.
I was going to take my lumps, but I wasn't going to get pushed around and taken advantage of.
Yeah.
But I went out there, man. We had a great match. I think I threw 968 punches. I can't remember, and I've got it on. I've got this on somewhere at home. I filmed it, of course. He beat me with a sidewalk slam, and I remember being like a breath of fresh air when I got to the locker room. I was like, man, I did it.
I did it.
I did it. Like, oh my gosh, and I didn't botch. But then I went back and I looked at the tape, and I don't think I could have been any slower than, I don't know what to compare it to. I looked like a greenhorn. That's exactly what I was. But that's where it started, dude. Once I got over that first match with Ron, and I remember taking that sidewalk slam and hearing that 1, 2, 3 and getting my shoulders pinned to the mat for the first time. My first match was a loss, but when I went home that night, man, you could not get the smile off my face. I couldn't have been more happy to have lost in my life, because there it is. You go from a kid who's sat at 2 weeks old with his mother in his infant seat.
Yep.
And at the time, and I waited really too late to get started, but here I am, 21. This is 2002 in May, and I didn't turn 22 till October. So, 21 years old. Here I am. I'm a wrestler, or at least I thought.
Yeah. That going back to your filming and you carrying a camera. I remember back when I first met you. I always enjoyed. After that first match that we ever had, and we're going to get to that in a minute because you got a funny story on that. But I remember always loving to work with you because 99% of the time you were going to have a camera set up.
Oh yeah.
And I remember I actually, and I don't know.
And it was my mom.
Yeah, yeah.
Always.
I don't know how to. I don't know how to. Find a gimmick to work it. I used to have those old VCR gimmicks that you could slide it out and put the camcorder tape in, and then you could put it in a VCR.
One?
No,
you don't.
I don't even have a VCR.
What's wrong
I
with
called Walmart. I was trying to find one. I was going to watch some old wrestling tapes. I got a box of wrestling tapes, about 100 of them in there, of when I first started, and then old WCW, NWA, WWF junk. But I called Walmart one day and I asked the lady.
They laughed at you.
Yeah, I said, "Man, do you guys carry VCR?" And the woman said, "Excuse me, a what?" And I said, "Oh, you must be about 18 years old. You don't even know what a VCR is."
If you probably knew who Marty McFly and Dodge was, she'd probably tell you to find them so you can go back and get one.
But I ran across the other day some of those little camcorder tapes. I think one was me. Let's see. Was it me and Matt Jordan against you and David Young?
Oh yeah, that was at what was it?
Country Squire Homes.
Country Squire Homes. I remember that. I got a funny story about Country Squire Homes too. It's Clayton Homes now, ain't it?
Yeah, yeah. Then there was that one of, I think it's me and you against Cassidy Riley and Eric Young.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I was so
but I don't
nervous.
I don't know how to watch them, and I wish I could figure out how to watch
I've got that match somewhere too. I don't have one of them tapes, but I've still got. I don't even know if I still have my camcorders, but I used to watch those on my camcorder, and I would hook the video cables up to the back of the TV into the camera, and I'd watch it through that.
Right.
But
can you still get a camcorder like that fits those tapes?
Everything's digital now. I mean, it's just
I don't know how to.
I bought my wife a last camera I bought her. It's all digital, and this has not been that long ago. I mean, I don't think anything. everything's stored on a device now, or a memory card or something like that. I don't even know if they even sell anything to make tapes. I don't think they even sell tapes. I have no idea.
It frustrates me because I ran across those and I was going to show them to the kids, and I was like, look, these. I remember these matches, and
if you can find a company to like we have this place called Flickos down in Fort Oglethorpe. I don't know if they're still open or not, but you could take your tapes to them and they could convert them to Blu-ray or DVD. I don't know if they can convert them to Blu-ray because as a technology is as old as these tapes are, they wasn't even thinking about Blu-ray at this point. I know that they can take the tapes and transfer them to DVD.
That would be.
I don't know what it costs. So.
I'd like to find something like that because when I found those, I started looking for that little gimmick that you slide it out and you put that little camcorder tape in, and then you pop that whole deal in the VCR, and then I realized I didn't even have a VCR anymore. But I don't know. I'm the man that technology forgot. So
he's an analog man.
Yeah. So back to TWA.
Yeah.
You're there now. How long was it that you'd been going before? Wasn't it me and Matt that?
I can't remember how long. All I know is I got told, and this was these old Jedi mind tricks that the older guys would try to get you with. Well, didn't you know he's using something you use here? And what it boiled down to, and this is how I found out about you and Matt, was Matt. Remember, Matt used to wear the mechanics gloves, like Sting wore, and I did too. Oh. And that's where it all come from was, hey, you see this guy named Twister or whatever his name is that wrestles down here? He's wearing the same gloves as you, dude. And I'm like, oh, is he now?
I worked hard to steal that from Sting. I ain't letting nobody else.
And see, I hadn't started doing the face paint yet either.
Yeah.
And of course it didn't bother me. I didn't care. Who cares what kind of gloves somebody wears? It's an accessory.
Yeah.
But that's how I found out about y'all, and I didn't know y'all were going to come work in Dalton with us. I didn't understand. That's one thing I didn't know is once I got into the business, I did not realize how many wrestling shows were around us.
Right.
Because had I known, the only one I knew about whenever I was growing up, I knew about TWA when it was in Rossville, down off of McFarland Avenue, and I went to it a couple of times. And then they moved and disappeared, and I never knew what happened to them until I started working for them in Dalton, Georgia.
Yeah.
But the only other wrestling show that I ever went to was AWF for Paul.
Right.
And, it was a good show back then. And not saying that it ain't now. It's a good show now. But, I didn't realize that there were so many. It seems like for every, square block in your town, there's 5 shows within 10 or 15 minutes of it.
Right.
Now, I had never thought, well, these guys that they're talking about, they ain't gonna come up here. That never crossed my mind, nor did I care. All I was trying to do was cut my teeth in the business, get as much ring time as I could as far as show time and training, and I didn't care about anything. All I wanted to do was wrestle, get better. And it never crossed my mind to go anywhere different. You know what I mean? It never crossed. I just never thought of going anywhere else. I didn't know, you could get bookings over here and bookings over there. I didn't know how it worked, and that was one thing that I didn't understand until later after I met you. But I remember y'all coming, and it was like, oh, here's the new kids. Let's see what they got. And the story I know the funny story that you hinted at was the fact that I got asked to shoot on you.
Yeah.
I didn't know what a shoot was. Are you kidding me? You take my definition or what the definition of a shoot is now in 2021, and you go back to the fathers of wrestling, you ask them what a shoot is, you're not going to get the same answer.
Right.
I guarantee you. The kids now, the guys that are working now, couldn't define what an actual shoot
No.
is.
They think it's just being stiff.
If they were standing in front of, Bruno Sammartino or Harley Race,
Luthez,
or Luthez, or any of these, any of these guys, explain to me what a shoot is.
Yeah.
They have no clue.
Right.
They have no clue. Man, some of these guys would break your legs. They would break your arm. You make them look bad, you don't get but one opportunity. There ain't no 3-punch rule, okay, lighten up, okay, wham. That's not how, no. A shoot, it just happened.
You're getting hooked and you're getting hurt.
Exactly. They'd stretch you.
Yeah.
But I got asked to take it rough on you and Matt. And I don't remember what it was for either. I have no idea.
I guess because Matt was wearing your gloves.
I guess. And he even, I don't even think he wore them that night.
I don't remember.
Well, anyway, I agreed to it. I said, yeah, sure. And I did I say something in the ring to y'all? Or did I wait until or was it like years later?
I think it was years later you told me about that.
But they pulled me in the office and they's like, let's see what these boys got, or let's I heard these boys are trouble, or these boys think that they're this or think that they're that. I cannot remember the conversation or even who made the call. I can't remember who was calling the shots that night. But they was like, we need you to go out there and put it on these boys. Okay, whatever. And that's not how I talked to them. I was just like, okay. In my mind, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll do what you need me to do. But I was like, well, they didn't do nothing to me.
Yeah.
They ain't never been here before. Let's make this a good experience for these guys, because if they're talented, we want to keep them on the roster.
Right.
Why run 2 guys off and be a jerk for no reason? They didn't do nothing to me.
Yeah.
So we went out there and had a match. And I don't think there was a stiff punch thrown.
Not that I can remember.
Well, not by me, because I worked, I worked the front office that night.
Yeah.
I told him I'd do something, and to this day, no one but you and I don't even know if Matt knows about it, and I think my wife knows, but I haven't really spoke about it to anybody because it wasn't nobody's business.
Right.
I was trying to keep talent around, not rough them up.
Yeah, yeah. And that's we got the reputation later on for being rough or tough guys and roughing people up and stretching people, and it's not a reputation that I'm proud of anymore. There in 2009, 10, 11, around in there, I took a lot of pride in that. It helped my man ego.
Well, it was influenced by some of the wrong things.
Right. Yeah. But no, that's you want good guys on the roster, and I think probably the stiffest thing in that match was, Matt Gilbert. Of course, that was just the way he worked.
Is that who was in it?
It was you and Matt Gilbert against me and Matt.
Wow.
Yeah. And see,
I can't see. That's the thing. It shows my age. I can't even remember who I was in the ring. I know you and Matt was in there, but I didn't know that I was tagging with Matt Gilbert.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And we could never remember his name. So me and Matt, back then it was before Matt shaved his head and he was bald.
Right.
But he was just walking around, and I believe
That's such another good talent, right?
Yes.
Matt Gilbert, my lord.
Black trunks and no shoes, walking around barefooted.
What a talent!
And we called him the radioactive squirrel. Because he was so small, but his hair was like everywhere.
I remember that. Because I had some major feuds with Matt at the time, and his hair was
later on when I worked him
for sure.
Yeah, when I worked with him, later on, he was always fun. He was a good one.
I didn't see any reason to pick on y'all. Well, I wouldn't call for it, dude. You had never been to TWA. You tell me what you guys could have done so young in the business that could have. Why?
Yeah, and that would have been about halfway. That would have been about halfway through 03 because TWA was my third show.
Yeah.
The show that I started for. working for Scott Prater, and then
I remember Scott's first guy that ever put me over for a strap.
Oh yeah,
First guy that ever.
Yeah,
I love Scott.
He's good.
I don't know if he loves me. I ain't talked to him since.
I've not
honestly.
talked to him in a while either.
I know my wife worked for him. He put the women's gimmick on her when she first started cutting in.
Yeah.
But God, I haven't seen Scott since maybe once or twice since. I think I was heavyweight champion the first 6 months.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the last time I seen him.
It's been a while since I've seen her or talked to him, but no, I started out working for him, and then Halsey baby took me. Yeah, Halsey took me to Fort Payne, Alabama, work a show for Mahler Mays.
Oh my Lord!
And then
remember Mahler?
Yeah, and then TWA was my third show.
Right.
So and we didn't start getting out until we had been in for 5 or 6 months.
Yeah.
So TWA would have been somewhere probably mid 03, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what we would have done to make people think. Now later on, I'll admit I got cocky. I got a big head, huge, but at that time, the guys that was around me, like Scott and Hoss, and Jess Wade, Shane Williams, they would have brought me down to size if they heard that I was getting a big head.
Well, and I'll tell you now, there's not any of us that at some point, as long as all of us been wrestling, at some point or another, there was an ego problem.
Right.
I don't care who. And let me tell you what it boiled down to is you can't just stay in the same place and have everybody telling you, "Oh, Johnny, you're great. You should be somewhere. You should be doing this. You should be doing that." I spent my first four years I give to TWA, and none of this was planned. And I think the first time I ever went anywhere with any kind of credibility was NWA Anarchy. And remember when Hoss was going down there, and I can't remember the guy he was working with, but I remember Todd Sexton had the book. Onyx was champion. Sal Renaro was there. He, young, great talent. Mm-hmm. Seth DeLay was there, great talent. I think Sean Tempers was there. Ace Rockwell was there. Tank, I think Rev was there. I mean, dude, they had one of the most loaded rosters that I think I'd ever seen in my life. All these great talents. Hernandez that was with Impact, or I don't even know what he's. I think I seen something that he's back doing something now. I'm not sure. I don't keep up with him, but he was there the first night that I ever went, and the problem with a lot of these egos are you get told that you're good. Oh man, that looked great. There's too many guys standing at the curtain when you come in to clap for you and tell you, oh man, that was a killer match. Even if there's stuff in your match that either A, didn't make sense, or B, didn't go off the way it should have.
Right.
That was one of the biggest things that held me back at TWA was we were all a brotherhood and we wanted each other to feel like we were doing great.
Right.
But there was that lack of honesty when you come through that curtain to say,
hey, man,
some was exactly
yeah.
Some was good, but dude, some of it you just don't ever need to do again.
Right.
And TWA was one of those. It was a good. It wasn't televised or nothing like that, so it was a good place to go for talent and try stuff that you've never tried before to see if you can do it. Because 90% of the time, 99% of the time, the crowd's done forgot if you botched a move by the time main event's over.
Yeah.
Probably by the time you get out of the ring. I can't tell you ever in the years that I've been in the ring, I cannot ever remember a time where somebody or a fan come up to me. He's like, dude, you remember that time where you were supposed to duck a clothesline and Annihilator clotheslined you in the face because you didn't hear what he said and you took it straight to the mouth, and that happened. I didn't hear him say duck a clothesline, buddy. He didn't. And those guys, they didn't do this swinging way above your head type crap. No, they followed through with it. And I know people can't see what I'm doing now, but you can. But you followed through with that clothesline because you want to give the appearance that you're fixing to level this guy. Yeah. He's not supposed to know you're going to duck.
Right.
But I didn't duck that night. And, buddy, he knocked me into another world.
I used to have a bad habit when I first started of swinging when somebody was going to be ducking. I would swing high.
Like, are you?
And I mean, I remember I got jumped on that. They said, "No, you swing to take that guy's head off. If he don't duck, it's his fault."
You're throwing a clothesline, not a fastball.
Yeah,
you throw. But there's not enough of that. But when you get told, going to the egos, you get told for so long that you're this good and you should be somewhere and that you're an amazing talent, and then you go somewhere like what I did, NWA Anarchy, and you talk to the people there and they're like, well, first of all, you ain't wearing wrestling gear, you're in black jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah. And,
okay, so right off the bat, my appearance is wrong. I don't look the part of a wrestler.
Right.
They's like, well, kid, I'll tell you what, you come and sit in on some shows, see how we operate, and we might get you on TV. Okay, awesome. So the next show I went to, I worked out in the ring after the show with Sal Renaro and Seth DeLay. Seth DeLay always called me the man with the shoulder tackle. Now, I mean, I say he called me that, but like I know him, personally, like we call each other now. I've had one or two interactions with him, and he called me the guy with the shoulder tackle because, I'm 6 foot tall, 5'11", 6 foot tall, 230 pounds, and when I put a shoulder tackle in, I was taught to put a shoulder tackle in.
Right.
I didn't take into consideration that, hey, these guys are traveling all over doing this. They're not playing as hard as what some of us play just on the weekends.
Yeah.
So when I give him a shoulder tackle, buddy, I gave him a shoulder tackle. But Sal Renaro, and I held this against him for the longest time. But he is the one that really opened my eyes. And he probably doesn't remember me or recalls this happening or anything, but 100% this is fact. When I went down there and worked out in the ring after the show, he says, all right, let's see what you can do. Everything I'd done, he critiqued. Everything. When we locked up, he'd shot around, hit me with the go behind, reversal. So he had, he had me back in it. So as I'm sitting here trying to break his waist lock, I'm looking down at the mat, and he stops, pushes my head up, takes his hand, pushes my head up. He says, "They can't see your face.
Yeah. Yep.
You're working for TV now. You're not just in here playing."
Right.
Everything that I'd done, he critiqued me on because he had a heads up on what to do. Man, he obviously had more info than what I ever did.
Yeah.
And at that time, dude, you couldn't have told me this guy ain't a jerk. To me, dude, I left there with the worst taste in my mouth because when I went down there, I was Johnny Rokk from TWA. I was X amount of time heavyweight champion there, and it never occurred to me that anybody was better than me until I stepped in to NWA Anarchy and seen Ace Rockwell work and Sean Tempers and Tank and Danny, Henry Halls. I seen all these guys doing their thing, and I said, "Oh my God,
yeah,
holy crap!"
Yeah.
And then whenever I worked out that little bit with Sal, I don't even think we was in there 10 minutes before I got flustered, and I was like, "Okay, I'll work on this stuff." And the whole way home, I done nothing but complain and cry. And Hoss was laughing at me, and I never went back.
Yeah,
never went back. And if I ever had an opportunity of doing anything other than what I've done, that was it. And I squandered it because I got told that I was Johnny Rokk, and you couldn't tell me nothing because I was this good and I should already be somewhere. You know what? That's the difference maker.
That's for anybody out there listening. Aspiring wrestlers, current wrestlers, whatever. Don't matter how long you've been in, you've always got something to learn.
And if Sal ever heard this, conversation that we're having now, I just want to tell him thank you, because without that knowledge, without what he done to me, and even though I held it against him, and he didn't know I held it against him,
Right.
I mean, he opened my mind up and opened my eyes up and made me realize, hey kid, humble yourself before you get humbled.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's what he was telling me without telling me. I think he was telling me, humble yourself before you get humbled.
Right. And that's a big part of it. If you're not teachable, then you can stay in your little show, working in front of the same 25 or 30 people every week.
You can be king of the mountain on for 20 years.
Right. But if you're not teachable, you can't. You're not going to grow. And there's so many like that. But that's something that everybody needs to really take into account, is humbling yourself and always being coachable. You can learn something from everybody.
I really didn't start being a sponge for everything until then.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. You have to take everything in. So from that point forward, and I'm sure that I had my points where I was difficult to work with. Woody will even tell you that. I just took everything in. Mm-hmm. What all these vets were. I didn't look at these guys with, the older guys that just wanted to hang around. I started taking in their advice. Well, maybe you shouldn't throw this clothesline here. Maybe you should throw it here instead.
Right.
And I became a sponge and started soaking all this stuff in. After that interaction with Sal, that's when it took off, dude.
Yeah.
Then you started getting me bookings, and then I started getting bookings, and when we went to Florida with Ted.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was one of the greatest experiences in my entire time in the business, because you and I don't think you and I had ever done this. I think it might have been a first for both of us. Remember, we got down there, got in the locker room, we were baby faces, and we were looking for our opponents, who we were working with.
Uh-huh.
And little did we know, this is the first time that we were going to have a heel locker room and a babyface locker room separated. The only person who knew the finish was the refs.
Yes.
You and I didn't know the finish.
Right.
And I was asking, well, how are we going to get with these guys and go over this stuff? We got to talk this match over, and where do we go to talk? You don't.
You just go out there and
You
work.
just go out there and wrestle. This is when you find out who you are.
That's right.
This is where it's a gut check for both of us, for you and I both at that point. That's where the test came in. Are we going to make it in this business or not?
Hadn't even met the guys.
No, that's the thing. When we locked up, because I believe I might have started the match that night, but that was an introduction.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Johnny.
Exactly. Yeah, you lock up with this guy and you're like, hey, I'm Johnny. Hey, I'm blah, blah, blah. Cool. Arm drag. Snap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we had a 5-star tag match that night, dude, and it was amazing. And I could not, for the life of me, I still can't get over the fact that we went down there, we called no spots, we called no finish, nothing. I don't remember what the finish was of that match, and I don't care. I just took it in that we just went down there and worked with two guys that we have never met, and I haven't spoke to since.
Right.
Worked at a show that I'd never been to, that I haven't been back to since. Worked in a town that I'd never been to, have never been back since. Had a 5-star quality match, had the crowd into us, especially for two guys that had never been there before.
Right.
And
that was that in Pensacola?
No, it was in Milton, Florida.
Milton,
Florida. Because we went down, it was like a 6-hour drive or some crazy thing like that. And we went down, done the shot in Milton, and then came back through Atmore, Alabama the next day, and I regret what I done that day. Ted asked me if I wanted to work, and I'd be working him, and I got cold feet, and I said, "Man, my back's bothering me. I'm kind of sore right now. Casey, won't you take it?" You remember that?
Yeah.
I had a golden opportunity to wrestle in some place that I'd never been before against somebody like Ted Allen, and I chickened out.
And the promoter was Wild Samoan Sika.
Yeah, and it was for Sika of the Wild Samoans.
Yeah.
And there was another another opportunity of networking that I cast out into wherever along with NWA Anarchy, because either A, I got my feelings hurt, or B, I got scared because I was working somebody the caliber of Ted Allen.
Yeah.
2 opportunities right there that I squandered.
Yeah.
So I sat there and sold his gimmicks.
Yeah.
Sold his mask.
And that's, I remember that show, man. I was nervous because, once again, place that we'd never been. I'd been riding with Ted for a few weeks or a couple of months, but that was the first time that I'd actually worked him.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was the first time that I'd worked him.
Well, I put you in a pickle, didn't it?
It was. and what he did, and I was, Sika ended up putting us in the main event.
I remember.
And the Samoans are there, the Fargos are there, and I mean, this is a legend show down there. A Florida Territory legend show gimmick.
Yeah. Well, this was in Florida Territory, but it was Atmore, Alabama.
Yeah, but I remember they put us in the main event, and I was like, okay, I've been quite acquainted with Ted over the last couple of months, just riding down the road, getting his knowledge, but I hadn't actually been in the ring with him. In an actual match.
Right.
And as far as the match goes, he didn't talk to me about none of it. My music was about to hit, and I said, Ted, what are we doing? What's the finish? He said, we'll figure it out there, buddy. and I remember I was wearing a shirt, and he said, you ain't going to wear that shirt in the match, are you? And I said, well, I usually do. He said, no, you ain't doing that with me.
There it is.
Yes, sir. So, but yeah, that was really nerve-wracking for me, but it ended up being good, and he put me over.
I remember.
That crazy guy, man. I
miss him. I miss him.
Hey guys, have you ever wanted to have your very own podcast? Well, you can now, thanks to Anchor. Anchor has easy-to-use editing tools, and one of my favorite things about Anchor, they will distribute your podcast to all the major platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google, and the others. All you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. All right, so, okay. Now let's transition to the Chaos Wrestling Federation.
Wow.
Man, oh man. Now, at one time, I can't remember the exact timeline on this, but Jeff Bowman was running Dayton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We were running with CWF, Cleveland and Benton.
I don't even think we was in Benton yet. See, we were just doing spot shows at that point at Country Squire Homes.
Yeah, okay.
And Jeff Bowman was involved somehow or another because he had that up in Dayton at the Armory.
Right.
And we were kind of merging, if memory serves me correct.
Co-promoting.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, so, now when I don't even remember how we planned the stories or how it got going, but somehow it's me and you. We were doing CWF shows, the co-promotion shows in Dayton. We were doing the Country Squire Home spot shows, and wasn't we still doing some at the Armory in Cleveland?
I think so. I don't know if we were doing the Armory in Cleveland yet.
Or not?
I know.
Let's see.
We were doing these little spot shows. I remember the real first CWF show that really sticks out in my mind. Do you remember who was it that was where it was? Me and Shane Williams worked you and Sonny Siaki.
Okay. Was that was a Country Squire?
That's a Country Squire Home, exactly.
Yeah.
And this was in 2005 because this was right before the first TNA pay-per-view I ever watched was Bound for Glory 2005.
Okay.
And I think Sonny Siaki was one of the first names that I'd ever worked with, maybe. I just remember big old muscled up guy, and he came in and trying to go over what we wanted to do and what have you, and chaos being in the name of the promotion, we had to do some unorthodox. I just remember I told him, well, give me a sidewalk slam, right? And he was like, man, you big guy, I don't, sidewalk slam. And we get out there, and as all CWF events went, it went from a regular style match into a massive brawl, and all rules were thrown out the window because it was sort of your play on ECW.
Right.
We just didn't go to that degree of what ECW did, but it was kind of like set up like that. You could play with chairs, you could
basically
play
no disqualification.
Exactly. I remember I just talked to this fella in the back. Give me a sidewalk slam out there. Oh man, I'd pick you up for no sidewalk slam. You're a bigger guy, and I was like, I think at the time I was like 250 or 260. And I'm like, dude, you probably bench press me, but and he wasn't a tall guy either, from what I remember.
He was a little taller than me. 6'3", 4".
I don't remember him being
6'2",
that tall.
3". I don't remember.
Anyway,
it's been a long time since I've seen.
So
Sonny.
we get out there and we're playing, and of course Joey was out there running his mouth because y'all were inseparable. And I just remember this guy says that he didn't want to give me a sidewalk slam when we're going over this match, but we get out there and he says, "Hey, you want to go through a table?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, mind you, I'd never done hardcore matches really.
Yeah.
I don't care for them. They're not, and it's nothing against them. They're just not my style. And so he's like, "Hey, you want to go through a table?" And I'm sitting here like, "Huh?" So he tells Jay West, "Clear off that table. All the sound equipment and everything's on," and I'm trying to avoid this table, so I start heading for the street. That was on the other side of the ring, and I'm like, dude. So the same man who was griping about not wanting to give me a sidewalk slam because I might be too heavy takes and power bombs me through a table in the parking lot of Country Squire Homes. And at that point, I don't remember ever being so scared in my life as far as being in a match.
Yeah.
But that was one of the first things about CWF that I remember, was that this is not going to be normal.
Right. Well, and with Sonny, most likely, because me and you've been in these situations too, till you get out there and work with somebody and feel somebody out, with a sidewalk slam, he was probably thinking, "Hey, this guy might sandbag me and throw my back out or something." So once he got out there and worked with you, and like, oh, this guy's light on his feet, he can go.
I like to think mostly everybody that I've ever worked knows that I'm not going to sandbag them.
Yeah.
I might jump a little too much for you, unless you're in there with Cyrus, who's going to throw anything and everything around like it don't weigh anything.
Yeah.
Strongest individual I've ever encountered in my life. Dude, he is scary.
Yeah.
Strong. And he got scary good too.
I don't think I ever worked for him or worked with him. We was going to bring him. Then. We was going to bring him. I was actually going to book him in an angle with me at GWM.
Yeah.
And then he ended up not being able to make it, so that's when we created that Judas character, and I started doing that deal. But
CWF, dude, I think you and I were synonymous with that. Do you remember the spot we done? This is after y'all created the mirror image. It's kind of your rip on the Four Horsemen.
Okay, now the original mirror image. This is me.
You, Rivers,
Keith Hart. Hazard, wasn't it? Was it Hazard?
I don't think Chip was in the. I don't know.
I think Chip was in the original, and then.
I think you're right.
Then him and Chad started tagging, and they wanted to do that, so we brought KT in.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's the way it went.
I think it was too, because there was a big swerve. Because I was heavyweight champion, and I remember we done the big swerve where you kind of teased a babyface turn, and CWF, like I said, no rules, any match can get changed, even right in the middle of it. Remember we done that show up.
That was at Prospect Elementary.
Exactly, up like Highway 60 Cleveland. Or something like that.
It's off. It was off of Harrison Pike, but it's on. Okay. It's in Cleveland.
So I remember I was supposed to main event for the heavyweight title that night against Chip. And we had worked this big angle like Chip was, building Chip. And then all of a sudden, you was the referee. And what did we call your finish back then?
AIDS.
So you gave me AIDS.
Yeah.
As a referee, Casey Cage gives Johnny Rokk AIDS. And pulls the referee's shirt off, gives it to Chip. Chip counts 1, 2, 3, and lo and behold, Casey Cage is the new heavyweight champion.
I bet Chip felt screwed in that angle.
He probably did.
But I think actually, I don't know. I don't know why we did that.
I don't know either. Because I got the belt right back.
Yeah.
It was a wasted opportunity, especially for Chip. Chip
Right.
should have been put over right
Right.
there.
And I mean, I can't think of, that would.
But it was Joey, man. I mean,
well, and that's what I was going to say. At first I thought, well, it must have been something to do with my ego. But actually, with CWF, the way we booked it, me and Joey would come up with angles and matches together. But when it come to my stories, I let Joey book it. That way, guys didn't think, Casey's putting himself over here.
but the thing about it is, CWF revolved around you and I. Mm-hmm. Everything that happened at that show revolved around you and I. And the other matches kind of seemed like fillers at that point. Yeah. I don't think anybody other than, with the exception of a few people, got the proper. Paul Driver got Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle, not Kurt Angle, but Kurt Angle.
That was a great gimmick.
He got treated. I don't know that he got treated the best because he got beat up a lot. But other than Johnny Rokk and the Mirror Image and maybe Paul Driver, I think everybody else from time to time got lost in the shuffle. And I don't. But everybody worked for us. Nobody ever complained about anything. At least not to me.
Right.
But we were heavy favorites. The belt always surrounded you or me. I don't know that anybody. Matter of fact, I think I'm still CWF champion.
I would say you probably are.
I think I'm still TCW champion.
You probably are.
And I retired that way. But boy, we had some goods. Remember the one where something happened? I legitimately got hurt. Remember it was a car wreck I had, I think. Maybe it was a car wreck where I had all the staples in the backside of my head. And I had to get my staples out or something. But remember, we pulled up, Tiffany, me and Tiff pulled up in the car, and I had the doctor's note. I wrestled in street clothes that night. It was nobody knew I was there. Nobody. Not even the boys. We kept it a secret for months. But
was that Land of Confusion 08?
I can't remember what it was, but it's on YouTube.
It is on YouTube, yeah.
But I remember my wife still to this day will never let me live us down. I'd done a burnout in her car in the parking lot trying to beat the 10 count because you and Jay were in the ring counting to 10, and if I didn't make it, it was a disqualification, and Casey Cage was new champion.
Yep.
And dude, them gravels hit her wheels on that car and ate the clear coat all over. And ever since I done that, dude, them wheels on that car started peeling. And we can't talk about CWF or that match without her saying, "Yes, when you hurt my wheels." I can hear her little self now, all 5'3" of her. And
that was that was a fun match, though.
Oh man, it was. It wasn't the smoothest, I remember. But there's one in particular where I know it hurt me. But I gave you, remember where we were playing around, and it was like, I'm gonna start throwing in some of the moves from the boys on TV to see if anybody in the locker room catches it.
Oh yeah.
So I started doing Shawn Michaels' whole comeback spot where do the forearm, kip up, punch bump, slam, elbow drop. But I remember for whatever reason you and I were off. Mm-hmm. I was feeding with my right forearm to your left hand side, but for whatever reason we got crossed up.
Oh yeah, I
and
remember.
We hit dead center. And when you bumped, you done a Lex Luger type thing and left one knee up, and I went crotch first right into your knee. You can see it on camera too. And I just remember laying in the ring thinking, I was like, man, I got to kip up to my feet now, and here I am all swole up.
I didn't remember I don't remember that.
It's on camera.
I remember that getting botched, the forearm. But
and what else did we do at CWF, man? I mean, we had some good ones.
We did have some good ones. We had we did those, and then we started somehow.
You went into a thing with Shane Williams at one point, and I went into a thing with KT.
Right. Well, that one with Shane, that was in 06. Because that's when we had that Japanese death match.
Good grief. I remember.
And that, oof, I don't ever want to do one of them again, but that was some rough, that was some rough stuff. And Shane, I mean, he's like Mick Foley. He's going to go
tough,
out
man.
there. Yeah. He's going to go out there, and if he ain't giving his whole body, then he don't feel like he's give the fans their money's worth. But man, that
It's
guy,
never my style, but I respect the guys that can do that.
Right,
Man. They just
right.
They've got more than what I could.
Yeah,
I can't do it, man. I watch some of Tank's matches. Those death matches like that, man. I'm like, dude, he is a tough son of a gun because there's some licks in those matches that I wouldn't even dream about taking.
Right.
I mean, that's one tough Tank.
Yeah,
that's one tough individual right there, and I respect him to the far ends of wherever. It just don't end. I respect that man because I'm gonna tell you now, I've seen him bloody as anybody.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. There's a level of tough. There's tough like what you and I are, and then there's that level of being tough, and it's just something that I can't match.
We did a lot of hardcore and no DQ stuff in CWF, but after that one with me and Big Country in 06, I distanced myself from it and let the other guys. Hey, you want to do hardcore? Y'all do as much hardcore as you want to, but But I remember somehow Jeff Bowman's show started to fade out or whatever, and Robbie started taking over running Dayton.
Oh yeah,
and
so we transformed into into TCW and running Graysville.
Right, and then that's what I was going to say. Then they moved to Graysville, and then we kept the co-promotion thing going. But now I'm talking, Graysville was a hot town,
buddy. I'm gonna tell you what. Aside from working you there, I don't think me and Brandon Daniels could have tore the house down as many times anywhere as often as we did. I mean, I'm gonna tell you, I traveled with that kid 3 years.
Yeah,
and we didn't do the same match, different town. We done different match, different town.
Right,
and it was altogether different. And I remember who was it? Tracy Smothers and Ricky Morton. It was in Harriman, Tennessee. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Harriman. He come in there. Ricky Morton and Tracy Smothers come into the locker room and said, "You boys ought to be on TV." And that's the first time Brandon had ever really been around a name. I think he had worked with Raven at some point.
Yeah.
But TCW was a hotbed, and I was truly saddened whenever that it went downhill.
I know.
And I don't know what took it downhill, and
I don't really know either. But I'm telling you, those shows that we had in was it an old school gym or whatever? Yeah, man. Those were some hot shows, and then even when we moved over to the ball fields was good.
There was a lot of dissension, man, that came in that locker room after a while, and I ain't trying to put this on anybody, but the locker room got too loose. There wasn't enough control.
Right.
Too much drinking going on in the locker room.
Yep.
Not enough organization.
Yeah.
And it got away.
And the inmates were running the asylum.
Exactly.
Had cliques.
Well, the thing about it is Robbie, Joey should have ran CWF, and Robbie should have run TCW. But the problem is that Joey ran both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to be too much. And so what happens whenever you start running out of ideas, or whenever something starts getting away from you, other people start trickling in and taking over.
Yeah.
And I was a part of that. I didn't do it any good, because then I pretty much started calling my own shots.
Right.
That's why I joke around, and Keith Hart too. I joke around because when was 4th of July show? What year was that? is when it was whenever I won the strap from Rivers. We had that Ironman match, and because remember we done the Ironman match inside the school gym. We didn't do an Ironman match there. We worked 20-minute time limit draw for the strap, and then the crowd started chanting 5 more minutes, and we done 3 more 5 more minutes with a big pull apart at the end. And then at the ball field, we done the Ironman match, and it came down to, I want to say I got in trouble right off the get-go, and Rivers hit me with a belt shot or something like that, and pinned me within seconds of opening bell. And so I was fighting uphill the whole time, trying to tie it up, or possibly win it and send it in overtime. And it was just, the crowd was so hot, dude, it gives me goosebumps. Because right as it was like 30 seconds left down, Rivers misses something big. I take advantage, put him in the, I didn't have a name for it, but it was a scorpion deathlock. I put him in that, and with 2 seconds left, he taps out, and I tied up with 2 seconds. Look at that goosebumps on my arm. The crowd was hot. They were screaming, hollering, kids flying all over the place, and what have you. And then, instead of calling the match a draw, Robbie comes out and saying there must be a winner to this, kind of like Sean and Brett.
Yeah.
There's got to be a winner. It can't end in a draw or time limit, whatever. So we didn't go no hour. At most we went 38 minutes because the Ironman match was 30 minutes, and I think we might have went another 8. But that's where I joke around and say that the original Super Kick party was started, and this was before it got world recognition from the Young Bucks, because
there's some more kids come in, stole your gimmick. You need to go shoot on. They probably wear your gloves too.
Well, you know what? They got a television show and I don't.
Yeah.
We joke around about that being the original Super Kick party because this I can't remember the year really. It was close to maybe 2010, 11, something like that.
Yeah, it would have been anywhere between 9 and 11.
So I remember everybody, mirror image wise, even Jay West, KT come in, took a super kick. Casey Cage come in, took a super kick. Jay West come in, took a super kick. Keith Hart come in, took a super kick. Brian Rivers fed around, took a super kick. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
I win it all. They're shooting fireworks and crap off.
That was.
So that's what we joke around and call that the original super kick party because Keith Hart was the one who caught. If Keith Hart and Johnny Rokk were in the building, everybody was taking a super kick. Don't care who it was. Fans, old women, person taking money at the door. You're getting a super kick. You're getting a super kick. You're getting a super kick.
Yeah. Oh man.
And
we had some good times up there. Remember when we did the war games?
Oh gosh.
CWF versus TCW war games.
It was it was so confusing because I remember coming in House of Fire, dude, and it was the most awkward thing because it was instead of war games being 2 rings, it was 1 ring.
Mm-hmm.
So we had an overabundance of weight and people
inside the steel.
and it was weird because when it was my turn to come in, crowds exploding, and I'm supposed to feed to Rivers because that's where the angle was. Within the war game angle.
Yeah.
There was a separate angle leading into the Ironman match with Rivers, and I come in and he's standing right there as soon as I step in the ring. And I don't want to touch him right off because I want the crowd, I want to let that build for a few seconds, before I get my hands on him. But he's the first person standing there when I get in because everybody else is hugging the corner giving us room.
Yeah.
But you're in a 16 by 16 foot ring and there was nowhere for him to go because you got, 6 other guys in the ring.
Right.
And so I laugh at myself because I got in the ring and instead of going right after him and getting on him, I go to the crowd and I start turning Macho Man circles and getting in the crowd and he's standing in the ring going up and down like, no. It's like, now what in the world was stopping me from hitting him as soon as I got in? It's just one of those comical things where you get in the ring and you want to let the anticipation build before you punch him, but you're 3 foot apart. Like, why is Johnny Rokk doing an Indian dance right here in the middle of the ring, and Brian Rivers is telling him not to?
No. Oh, my Lord.
It was good.
That's some fun stuff. We did some good stuff. Another match that I've always enjoyed was when we were doing the Mid-Southern title tournament up here in Benton.
Yeah.
And me and you did that match, and that was my first match back in almost a year.
Arm drags and headlock takedowns.
Yeah.
All it was.
No punching, it was...
There was one clothesline on that. That's because I couldn't stand not to bump hard. And I called it and kind of... That was the only bump other than a headlock takedown or an arm drag.
Right. That was...
And that was whenever we was watching Brad Armstrong tapes a lot. Ricky Steamboat tapes a lot.
Man, those are some good ones. But...
you want to watch an arm drag, you watch Brad Armstrong or Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
Oh, man. Well, what else? What's...
There's so much, man. We're trying to cover 17 and 18 years worth of material in a... I don't know, it's been over an hour now, and we've barely broke the surface on anything.
No, we'll definitely have to do it this part two another time. But
I don't know. As far as wrestling goes, I didn't see the end of it coming. If you want to fast forward from all these years all the way up to 2019, here I am, double champion for EWA, which is Chip Hazard's promotion, down to TWE and Red Bank, run by Jaden Newman and that group over there. This is coming off a big run that I had at Georgia Premier Wrestling with Woody and Daryl. I'm going to say this from the bottom of my heart, man. I couldn't have had the last few years of my wrestling career, if that's what you want to call it, go any better, because I can't recall having any bad matches. I can't recall not wanting to work with somebody or being... I was in such a comfort zone with who I was and where I was at and who my character was. I was into it so much that I didn't see the injuries piling up.
Yeah.
And just going into 2019, we had talked about this. I was double champion, and for whatever reason, both promotions talked about me holding the belts for a total of 2 years. And I had just crossed over that first year marker, and I won the belt at 5 years strong, maybe not. I can't remember. No. Lord, who knows? There's so much that's happened, but I remember beating Adrian Ackle for the belt there, and I was in the middle, and I was heel this time, paired with Roger Cantrell, and so I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know how bad it was. And then going into talking to Jaden about having the belt for 2 years and who should I drop it to, and there was, we had several people that we had mentioned, and we had it settled on Joey Sparks, because Joey and I had some of the best matches for two big guys that I could have ever asked for.
Yeah.
I think our match at Outbreak, some of the boys from Nashville had come down, and I can't remember the name of the promotion, because at this time I was really battling my injuries and I wasn't telling nobody about it, and I had a lot of stuff that was slipping by me, even having trouble remembering spots, and I had a lot of stuff happening and I wasn't telling nobody. But even the guys there said that the main event at Outbreak, I believe is what it was, between myself and Joey Sparks, was every bit worthy of the main event. And truth be told, I should have been done that night. I should have dropped the belt then, but I got greedy, and we come up with this angle of me holding on to the belt for 2 full years, because most promotions nowadays don't invest in people like that.
Right.
They don't invest in
they don't invest in a person for that long. It's okay. Well, this guy's going to be champion, and this guy's going to be champion. This guy, we really zeroed in on making the heavyweight title something. Yeah. And I believe that longevity was the way to do that. Have me hold this belt for this long and then drop it to somebody and have a great match, and that's my exit.
Yeah.
Put somebody over that needed a little nudge at that show and be done. And I didn't get to make it to the 2-year mark because I started feeling funny. Started having numbness and tingling on my left side and stuff like that. And I never thought for once that I was hurt that bad. And I started seeing a doctor, and I was afraid at first it was my heart. And I remember having a lot of matches in that last run there where I was nervous about going out and performing because I was afraid of my health. But it never... You couldn't have noticed in my match that I was nervous. Mm-hmm. But I would go to my wife all the time and say, "You sure I'm okay? I'm going to be all right when I get done with this, right?" And I think at that point, when you start questioning whether you're going to be all right after a match or not, that's when you need to really consider being done.
Yeah.
So I pursued finding out what was wrong with me, and come to find out after I didn't find out the results of everything until after my last match that I didn't know was my last match. I worked Aaron Wade at 6 Years Strong, I think. And he was having a hard time getting over at the time. He's a greenhorn. Had a hard time getting over. And we went out there, and he was super nervous. I was always a little nervous about working with me, but this was his first opportunity at a big show, and he was earning his spot. Mm-hmm. And so we go out there, have the match, and the crowd at first was not split. They were cheering for me because at this point I had transitioned without really knowing it and without meaning to. I had transitioned from the top heel to the top babyface. And the whole plan was to turn me back heel, screw Joey over, which set up me dropping the belt.
Yeah.
But I went into this baby match with Aaron Wade at 6 Years Strong, and it went from the crowd cheering for me to the crowd being split to the crowd being on his side. And we had a good match. Little did I know it was my last one. We got to the back. The boys gave him a standing ovation. And even though I won that match and retained the belts, I didn't stay in the ring. I bowed out. That way he could get his. Mm-hmm. That was my whole plan. Give this kid a nudge. Show these people that he can hang. That he can get that push. And when the match is over, regardless, help the kid up to his feet. Let him get his glory, and let the champion leave even though he won.
Yeah.
Don't bask in your own glory right then. This is somebody else's time.
Right.
And that's what I done. I left the ring, and he has a martial arts style gimmick, so he bows to the crowd, and I want to say he might have gotten a little bit of a standing ovation. I know I did see people in the crowd standing and clapping for him, and he did get a standing ovation from the boys in the locker room.
That's cool.
And then I later found out health-wise that all the years of taking these bumps has riddled my lower back and hips with arthritis, which makes it difficult for me to move and walk at times. And it also caused a bulging disc, in my neck. And let's face it, dude, I mean, I don't have the money to have this stuff fixed.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. That's what it is now. I'm still battling it. But when you turn your head to the left and your face and your arm and your leg and everything starts feeling funny and going numb, there's something wrong.
Right.
And I just don't. At the time, I'm 40 years old now, but at the time, I still had an opportunity to get out and not have to have surgery unless something else happens later on. But I had the opportunity to slide out at 38, 39, 40 years old and let these younger kids who deserve to get the spotlight take over.
Right.
And that's what I done. I just, I called Jaden, and I was in tears because, my wrestling career is over. just as quick as it started, it seems like.
Yeah.
And I always said there was a certain way I wanted to go out, and little did I know before I wrestled that match on Saturday night with Aaron Wade. Wednesday, I found out that I was done. And now looking back on it, it's like, let's go back and talk about God here. God had a plan.
Right.
I did not realize that what I wanted to do, I'd done. That kid got over with that crowd that night. That kid got over with the boys in the locker room. He got over with himself. Now he's got the confidence to go out there and know that he can hang with some of the best talent in the area, if not the best talent in the area.
Right. Well, and that's the whole thing. You know, the old way. You know, everybody now wants to make sure they're getting their spots in and they're going over. But the old way is when somebody's on their way out, they're giving the rub to somebody and passing the torch to somebody. That's what you did with that situation.
You can't make new stars unless you put them over.
Yeah.
It's what suffered. It's what WWE and those promotions have suffered since The Rock, the Triple H, the Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Shawn Michaels, the Undertaker eras. They were so fixed on these guys like that they forgot to make, in my opinion, new stars. And that's why whenever you had your John Cena's and stuff like that, by that time, crowds got a different opinion of what they want out of their baby faces or who they want to see on top. And
right.
That's just my opinion. I mean, there's no fact to that. But I just think that WWE at some point forgot to make new stars.
Yeah,
and now they're trying to make new stars. But the problem is when you start looking at the roster and you've got guys like AJ Styles and Ricochet, Cedric Alexander, all these guys can do all the same stuff.
Right.
What the wrestling business, in my opinion, is missing, and this is what I took pride on, is find something about you that sets you apart from Casey Cage, from Brian Rivers, from Keith Hart, from KT Hamill, from Brandon Daniels. You find the one thing that you do better than anybody, and you do it.
Yeah.
And it's not so much, in my opinion, wasn't the talent. It was the face paint and my look.
Yeah. Yeah. After I guess, I don't know when, I don't remember exactly when you started really coming into, you know, you mentioned earlier about the jeans and t-shirt and all that, but when you really started getting your look together with the face paint and the gear, and I mean, you really started coming together, and that whole package, man, that package in my mind, had you had the chance to get in front of the biggest audiences in the world, I believe that you could have drawn money. I think you just needed that break. But
well, I mean,
also, as we've discussed before, you were always also one of those who you cared more about being at home with your family than you did.
That's a lot of misconceptions. A lot of my friends growing up, man, why didn't you go to WWF? Why didn't you go to WWE? Why didn't you shoot for TNA? I didn't want to.
Yeah.
This might be hard to believe for these guys out here that are working towards a contract or something like that, and it doesn't mean that I love the wrestling business any less than anybody in this world. It just means that I loved my family, my wife, and my kids more than I loved the wrestling business.
Yeah.
And so even though I might have wrestled these rinky-dink shows and these these hole-in-the-wall shows and these little towns here and these little towns there, and maybe I wasn't on TV every week, but you know what? I got to see my wife every night.
Yeah.
I got to see my son every night. I got to see my daughter every night.
Yeah.
And that, I wouldn't trade that for any of the memories that we've been talking about.
Right. And that's something that I didn't learn, and something that I didn't care about up until I was saved in 2012. I had a love for my wife and my kids, but my number one passion was wrestling. I worshiped wrestling, and I was traveling, and I was running the roads, and doing everything that I could to make it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I always wanted you right there with me. And I look back now and see where there was times where I would get frustrated with you because I'm like, you know, you could be right here with me, but you chose not to. And now looking back, it's just because you were more of a man than I was.
Well, I mean, and I'm not saying there weren't times that I wasn't envious of you and Brian. Seeing y'all on SmackDown, I mean, Rivers getting to take an RKO from Randy Orton.
Yeah.
And taking a knee bump, and I hope he hears this because I'll never let him live that down. He didn't take a flat face bump with that, but he was there.
Yeah.
I wasn't. No, Joey Lynch, Matt Fortune, you know, or Matt Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing those guys, yeah, I mean, you're always going to be envious of whenever you see one of your buddies on TV and it's like, dang, dude, I had the same opportunity that they did. But the difference maker is I didn't want that. And not saying that they chose wrestling over their family. It's just they chose to do this a different way.
Right.
They made sacrifices that might...
Basically, that you just wasn't willing to make.
They were, yeah, exactly. They are able to make the sacrifices that I was not willing to make.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying, now again, like I said, I'm not saying any of these guys, speaking of Matt and Joey, I'm not saying that makes them any less men or any less loving of their family. I hold them in a high regard, and I'm sure they love their families, their kids, as much as I love mine.
Right.
But where they had the nerve to take that step forward, I didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all what it boils down to, is they sacrificed a little bit of time, but you know what? They made more money at this than I did.
Well, and
they got more recognition than I did and things like that. And yeah, I mean, it makes you a little envious from time to time. You start thinking about, well, dang, I used to wrestle these guys and tear the house down.
Yeah.
But you know what? They were more dedicated to the wrestling business at that point than I was.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, when me and Rivers was out there burning up the roads and doing the shots for WWE and everything, just the honest truth, and I've been honest about it ever since the Lord changed my life. I worshiped wrestling, and like I said a minute ago, yeah, I loved my wife and my kids, but in my eyes, and this is selfishness, but in my eyes, they knew what they were getting into when they chose me to be the husband. Not necessarily my kids,
yeah.
But you know, in my mind, I was like, no, this is who I am, and I'll be danged if I'm gonna give it up for anybody else. I'm gonna achieve my dreams. So the thing is, where some of those guys can have their families and still make it and live their dreams, I chose not to. I chose to sell out my family,
Yeah.
and try to achieve my dreams because I didn't want anything standing in my way. And of course, the business now is different than it was back then. You know, the way I was brought up is, hey, you don't talk about wife, girlfriend. You make sure everybody thinks you're available. You don't need to be talking about family. That's personal. You need to you got a personal side and a business side, and you don't mix the two.
Well, the thing is, in all these guys and the guys that I've mentioned, and you know, all of my friends that have done well for themselves in the wrestling business, it's, you go into this with the intention of making it to a point to where you're making a living doing this, and you provide your wife and kids with a better life.
Right.
And like I said, some of these guys were able to make sacrifices that, for me, I didn't make, because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I wanted to, you know, they can sacrifice, and even though it was spread out, you know, these guys are great guys, great, amazing talents, and they deserve to be on the biggest stage that they could possibly get a hold of. It just wasn't for me.
Right.
And that's what it boils down to. I'm sure all these guys have went into wrestling and took these opportunities and missed these time with their family and thought, if I do this, maybe this is what's going to propel me to this next step to where I'm bringing in more money for my kids. I'm bringing in more money for my wife, and it's going to make their life easier. And I'm sure that's what the intentions are. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, getting to do that and live your dream at the same time is like a double whammy.
Right.
And that's what I respect about them, but I don't want to talk down about nobody, and I haven't, in my opinion, I haven't said anything derogatory or negative about any of these guys. I'm just saying that it wasn't for me, and, I respect the guys that were able to make those sacrifices because you made our area look good.
Yeah.
When these people find out who this guy was that worked on 205 Live and where he come from, he got covered by the local news here. That's awesome because you know what? That he put us on the map. He helped put us on the map. Yeah. He opened up. Hey, there's some great talent in this area, and I'll challenge anybody to that anywhere across the country. You'll find some of the best talent around this city that you'll find anywhere.
I guarantee.
In your Matt Lynch, in your Joey Lynch, in a lot of these guys, you'll find some of, if not the best talent in this area, whether you work for EWA, TWE, AWF, Empire, which had one of the most stacked rosters that I'd ever seen in my life for a local show. Mm-hmm. Whether you worked it for TWA in Dalton, all this, I challenge you to find an area with better talent than what we have here. Because I'm telling you, if WWE or anybody wants to know where the talent's at, you come to Chattanooga because I guarantee you somebody will point you in the right direction.
Well, there's always been a lot of hidden gems in this area.
There still is.
There is, yeah. And there's a lot of guys who were good at marketing and getting themselves out there from the beginning. Then there were some who, I don't want to say fumbled around, but for lack of a better word, fumbled around for a few years until they found theirself. They found their gimmick. They found what suited them that propelled them to the next level. But I mean, they're all in here, and I mean, we've worked with the best of them.
And I'll be honest, man. Like I said, I do get envious at times that maybe I didn't take it as far as my potential. But at the same time, I have no regrets in this business that I was a part of. I wouldn't change anything. Not one experience, not from all the bad matches and botches to the 5-star matches where you couldn't get any better than what you were. All the friends that I've made, every time somebody got mad at me, every promoter that never paid me or that paid me more than what maybe I was worth. I don't have any heat with anybody. All these guys that's in this brotherhood, I'm glad to see that it's going to prosper and move on. I'm just excited to see, once I start stepping back into the direction of, because I don't even really watch wrestling right now.
Yeah.
Once I start taking that step to being more, I guess you would say, just take a step back towards the wrestling business in some kind of way. Maybe, I don't know. I doubt I'll ever be a part of it ever again unless somebody asks me to come do like a one-off, hey, poke your head in for whatever reason. But I'm excited to see what's going to happen in Chattanooga. Excited to see where some of these young guys are going to end up landing.
Yeah.
I just want to tell everybody that ever shared the ring with me, was involved in so much as a run-in, or anybody that ever took a bump for me, anybody that ever let me pin their shoulders to the mat, anybody that ever let me do anything or make me who I am or who I was, just thank you. Without every single person that I ever worked with, from Brandon Daniels to Casey Cage to some of these guys, and I can't remember everybody I ever worked with, but there's not a person that I don't thank. I'm talking everybody: Daryl, Woody, Paul, Chip, Jaden, you, Joey, Drew over at Empire, all the guys that taught me lessons, that critiqued me, that told me that I didn't look good whenever I thought something looked good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for giving me one of the best experiences that I will ever have. And then, thank you to the wrestling business, because without that, I wouldn't have my wife. I wouldn't have my children. It gave me so much, and I was bitter for a long time, saying that wrestling is one of those industries that you give everything to, and then at the end you're broke down, you're old, and you're out of shape, and it takes from you and takes from you and doesn't give anything back. Well, the truth of the matter is, it puts out as much as you put in, honestly.
Yeah.
And it may not come in the form of money or bookings or fame and whatever, but it comes in the little things like what we've been talking about, the memories.
Right.
My wife, my kids, my friendships, all the people that I've met, all the people that I've worked with. Thank you to everybody, man. There's nothing else to say as far as wrestling goes. That's done. It's closed. Shut the book.
Yeah. I believe that about sums it up. But, in my opinion, and this is,
especially the fans, dude. That's. I remember in my retirement speech at TWE, I was so bewildered at the fact that I was retiring that I forgot to even thank the fans. So to the fans, dude, to everybody that ever believed in me, that paid and bought a ticket to watch me perform, to all the little kids that painted their face like I did when I watched Sting, thank you. Thank you for investing in me. Thank you for giving me your time, your attention, your cheers, your boos, whether you hated me, you loved me, legitimately couldn't stand me, legitimately loved me. I don't care. Thank you.
Yeah.
You made my life better.
That's awesome. Well, to wrap this thing up, I'll just say, like I said in the beginning, in my mind, you are the best that I ever stepped in the ring with, and that's no disrespect at all to all of the great, man, I've worked with some of the greatest guys from our area to all over the country, WWE, TNA, all these guys, but just the chemistry and the way we always gelled, in my heart and for me, you are the best that I ever stepped in the ring with, and your knowledge and your wisdom is something that some of these shows around here should be taking advantage of if you felt the urge to ever get back involved, because just because your body might not be letting you, that brain, there's a lot of knowledge and you can still help a lot of people. Now, with that said, I do have a little bit of heat with you.
Oh, Lord.
Because as we talked about a year or two ago, whenever you first told me that you retired, my plan was to have my retirement match with you, and now I'm still just floundering around here, trying to decide whether I'm in or whether I'm out.
You're gonna have to flounder on, because I mean, I don't,
Wow. I'm just playing.
I would have loved to have had a dream match with any of my best friends or any of my good friends. Would have been awesome, but we all can't have what we want, and I'm grateful for the way it ended. I'm grateful that I got to have a last match in its entirety. And I'm glad things fell the way they fell, because who knows, your last match with me or our last match together, what if we botched? Then we're going to have to go back and do it again. We can't hang this thing up on a bad match. So,
maybe that's right.
Our last match that we had at TWE was a good match, and I had fun.
Yeah.
And,
that one that we had at
Chips. Well, even though second rope broke or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you now, for any of those guys that are considering retirement or thinking about it, maybe you already had your last match. Take a look at what you've done in the business and ask yourself, is it time?
Yeah.
Don't be the guy that's hanging around too long.
Right.
I knew it was my time, and I knew it before I got the news I was hurt. Don't wait until you're hurt.
Yeah.
Look for those signs beforehand.
That's it, dude. I mean,
That's it. Well, brother, I definitely thank you for being here. And
this is fun.
it was.
I really appreciate you asking me to come do this. And, maybe we'll do a part 2 someday and get to some of the stuff.
We've not even scratched the surface yet
we're
in
going
almost
on
2 hours.
2 hours, and I just, I really appreciate you. And for those of you that do listen to this, fans and some of the boys and or anybody that listens to it, just I miss you and I love you. But Johnny Rokk's time's come and gone, and he's on down the road now, and maybe Johnny Willis will show up at TWE or EWA and poke his head in the door and say hey. So you never know.
All right, brother. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to Wrestling for the Faith with Casey Cage. Sponsorship opportunities are available. Contact us at wrestlingforthefaith@gmail.com for more information.